Everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday live meeting that looks a little bit different. I'm sure we are new faces to most of you guys. So we just wanted to do a quick introduction since the Conways were unable to do their live today. We thought we'd jump in and tell you a little bit about our member meetings. So I'm Coach Stefanie, and with me is Coach Wendi. We are both coaches for our Healthi member meetings. And I have been with Healthi for a long, long time, since before they were, Healthi and when they were still iTrack Bites, and have been a coach with them for almost as many years and have had great success on the program and had great success in my past losing weight and maintaining the weight. And then, life happens after a couple of years of holding my weight loss. It kind of started creeping back up and I needed to refocus myself. And that's when I found iTrack Bites and Healthi. And that's kind of how I ended up here. And I love sharing my experience and helping others in their journey. And that's how I became a coach. At the beginning, I was a coach in the community and was helping there. And then I transitioned into becoming a meeting coach. And I've been doing that for, I want to say, the past 2 years, 3 years, and really love that. So now you know a little bit about me. So Wendi, go ahead, tell them a little bit about you.
Well, I haven't been here as long, but I have known about Healthi and its former name under iTrack Bites for a very long time. I have been a coach for well over 20 years, first with a different organization and now here. But I have to tell you, I found iTrack Bites because I found the program to be so user-friendly, especially to members of mine who were under 18 and unable to use another system. But because iTrack Bites now Healthi has an app that is beyond, user friendly. And so I was constantly referring people to it. And so then I one day thought, well, why am I not using it on a full-time basis? I was kind of using it half and half with another one. And so I switched over. And then a friend of mine who is also a coach, okay, named Jerry, said, why don't you become a coach? And so I said, do you think I should? And I said, I've been coaching for, with a little bit of respite in between, now almost 20 years. 22 years, actually. But I think, hi, Karen. I really do love the program. I love the plans. I love the support system. And to me, that's always been the most important thing with any plan. And I am glad that so many years ago I found you guys.
Yeah. I'm glad that you're seeing the chat. I just started seeing it.
And I'm going to ask basically what is this? Okay.
Yes. So the Conways were unable to join us today. So we're telling you a little bit about Healthi's offering about member meetings. And that is what we are doing here today.
And I will tell you that there's several coaches, more than several coaches, and each one of us is a little bit different. So, which is great because you all get the experience and the knowledge of each one of us, which, it's always great to gather tools in your own toolbox that way.
Absolutely. And it brings a new side. So even if you go to multiple meetings during the week, you always get different perspectives. Each of us kind of has a different way of approaching the weekly topic. And that brings me to my next point, that every single week we have a weekly topic that we're focusing on, and that, most of the time, at least in my meetings are generally about 60 minutes long. And I like spending the first 20, 30-ish minutes on kind of the weekly topic and trying to bring some awareness to that, and doing a little bit more of like a teaching style versus as much of a conversation, even though I'm always happy for people to chime in. And I ask a lot of questions about the weekly topic to kind of like have a conversation about that. And then the last 30, 40 minutes of my meeting, I like to open up for whatever anybody wants to talk about. And we have really great conversations, whether that's on a challenge that somebody has right at the moment, or we're sharing tips and tricks or recipes or food finds, or talking about exercise, whatever comes up, whatever is on top of mind for people. We spend kind of the second half of our conversation on those topics.
And we, in my meetings, basically, we kind of start off, kind of get some recap on how your week has been going. What you've done that you feel good about, you're proud about. Whether it moved the scale or not, but what you did, again, to make you feel good. Then we talk about the topic. And usually, there are times when the meeting doesn't stay on topic, but then I always believe that the meeting is more member driven than me driven. So if you all decide you want to take the meeting and go in a different direction about something going on, about food finds, okay, about, an issue or something that a challenge that you've had coming up and you want to deal with it, fantastic. And then, of course, I get to always end my meetings most of the time with my own personal take on the topic in poem style. That's I've been doing it for years, and I can't stop it. So I always try to end the meeting that way, and set you off for a good and healthy week ahead.
Yeah. Absolutely. And every single week we have a little handout. So we wanted to show you the handout for this week really quickly so you kind of know what to expect. In the handout, as you can see here, it always talks about the topic. This week, we're talking about emotional eating, helping you recognize your triggers, and kind of figuring out what to do with this information then. So as you can see here on this first page, it's full of information on the weekly topic. And sometimes, I will go into those tips and tricks that are on the handout. And sometimes I will just pull out something from the handout that I want to dig a little bit deeper into. And then on the second page here on the right side, you can meet all of our coaches. And you can see we have quite the lineup. And then on the left, we have our weekly deep dive that asks you some reflection questions, because we're big believers in you putting in the work and kind of thinking through these questions yourself. And this is a great place to kind of jot down your own thoughts on the weekly topic. And then the last page is always a delicious recipe inspiration for you to try out.
And I love the handout, and I like what you said. Again, answering those questions. I think last week or week before last, I gave you some little homework. This week, we talked about a tool I refer to as reframing. It's an old school tool basically for dealing with emotional eating, which is the topic of the week. And I'm hoping that basically you do a little bit of that. As we say, we plan to succeed. So reframing is a tool that you can use to plan ahead with, so that should you encounter these emotion, okay, that you have normally fed, that you know what to do. Something else that is that will give you the same response that you were looking for food to give you. So I love the handout and the fact that there are questions on there. And hopefully that people are using them.
Yeah, I hope so too. In my meeting, I do the Monday evening meeting. In my meeting, we talked a little bit about the little tool chest that you can create when you are in a situation where you feel like your hunger is more based on emotions, and what you can do in those situations. And the overwhelming response was that most of our members like going for a walk in these situations. But if the weather is not good enough to go for a walk, we also discussed some other options that you have. So some of those include doing hobbies, Like we've talked about diamond painting before. I'm a big crafter, so I always love going the crafting route in that situation. Reading books, listening to audiobooks or podcasts is a really good one. Adult coloring books came up that you can do. And, adult coloring books also have the other really great aspect that you have something to do for your fingers, because the emotional eating is not only like doing something with your mouth, but also doing something with your fingers. And you might have heard before that smokers, for example, are really prone to gaining weight when they stop. And it's because they're so used to this motion of like moving something to their mouth that a lot of them then substitute that behavior by putting food into their mouth. So finding something else to do with your fingers is a really great strategy when you have that like emotional need that you're wanting to fill and also want to make sure that your fingers are busy.
Bravo. I like the idea that, again, part of it is also to remember that some people worry, well, if I have to do something else, do I have to spend X amount of time doing it? Is it, I only have so much time. It's so easy to go ahead and grab something quick and just stuff my face with it or whatever. But do I, in other words, taking a walk, that might be more time than I have.
Yep.
And so we use the adage for a long time that really what we're trying to do is to get you to get, it's a distraction thing. Okay, if the emotion hits and you're automatically focused on something to comfort yourself and food wise, you can use that time to do something to give yourself that same feeling, and it only takes about 15 to 20 minutes for your brain to get redirected away from food focus and basically more on self-care kind of thing. So, think about it that way. Like I said, going out for a walk, it doesn't have to be a long walk. Could be a quick one. Could be 15 minutes. Could be 10. Okay. And all it needs to do is just break that cycle.
Absolutely.
And so, that's one thing. And I actually, it's really funny. I stress when I walk. When I'm stressed at the office, that's the one thing I do is I go for a walk around the floor. Say hello to everybody, just walk by. But it gets me away from the stress. It just breaks that cycle for a moment. So I'm not looking for food or anything else to satisfy me. I go out for the walk, I'm able to breathe, and then I can go back and face whatever, my work and whatever else I need to do. So think about it that way when it comes to, what you do instead, whether it's coloring or whatever. It doesn't have to take a whole lot of time if you don't have it, but it can do exactly what we're talking about is break that cycle.
Yeah. And that's why I love having it as like almost a little toolbox. You have several different things available that you can do, and then you can pick the right one for your specific situation. Do I only have 3 minutes, or do I have half an hour to go for a walk? If I only have 3 minutes, maybe I want to just do a deep breathing exercise or some kind of meditation. That was another one that we talked about, because I love kind of the concept of meditation and finding kind of the centering technique that works really well for you. And that's something that you can do with just a few minutes versus, as you had mentioned, going for a walk, which generally takes a little bit more time, and you might not always have that time.
I love Linda said something about adult coloring books being her new thing. I even have them on my phone. Okay. So wherever I am, if I need to just get a little distracted or do something, in other words, besides eat, when I know I'm not physically hungry, I love diving into my coloring books, basically, but either the physical ones or the ones on my phone. They're all fun to do. As for meditation, many years ago, an old member introduced me to a thing called the Virtual Hope Box, and it was an app originally written for our returning soldiers, and it basically it has guided meditations. It even has some games in there. You can put some pictures that are important to you in there. It's just a nice way. It helped our returning soldiers, but it's a free app now out there, both for iOS and the other one. I can't remember what the other one is.
Android.
Thank you. But I like the guided meditations, and sometimes I will do just 10 minutes of one. just enough so I can realize I'm breathing normally again and I'm feeling, calm again. So a meditation also is something you can do just parts of.
Yeah.
Crossword puzzles. Yes. Okay. I'm looking at these things basically. Yes, it's very relaxing to color. I'm there with you also.
Yeah. And on Instagram, Jody Lynn said, Walk Away the Pounds has a YouTube video called 500 Steps in 5 Minutes. So that's another really great resource that can be used. And what Wendy and I are doing right now is actually another technique that we use in a lot of our meetings. We always monitor the chat and then kind of call out the things that we're seeing in the chat and talking about them a little bit more. So if you're somebody, our meetings are held via Zoom. So it's usually like a smaller, intimate group. I want to say most meetings have maybe between like 15 and 20 people, I want to say. And we have people that are really active, like they're on camera, they come off mute, they talk to us, and then we're having, conversations. But we also have people that don't feel comfortable showing their face, and that's totally fine too. And we have some people that just sit in and just listen to what's going on. We have some people that are really active in the chat, and that's why we're monitoring the chat and then kind of pulling out information from the chat so we can talk about it a little bit more. If you're listening to us, like, driving somewhere, you don't have to worry about like missing anything in the chat, because we're usually really good about pulling that out and talking about that for anybody who either doesn't know how to find the chat or isn't in a spot right now where they can read the chat. So you can participate in any level that you are comfortable with. It's not like we're just calling on people and making them talk. It's really geared towards what you as the member need. If you need encouragement, if you want to talk about something, we're here for you. If you just want to sit in and listen, that is totally fine too. But we're really trying to create like a small group environment where everybody feels comfortable to be themselves and show up in whichever way they feel most comfortable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have, no problem with people not showing, in other words, I see a black, little black box or whatever else. It doesn't matter. The fact that you're there in the meeting room and hopefully realizing that you are part of the group, whether your face is showing or not, you are part of the group, and that we're there to support you and, hopefully give you some tools and tips to take with you when you leave, and to feel like, again, that you're there because you're important, and we want you there. And so it doesn't matter whether we see your face or not. This evening, I was talking to somebody at one of my meetings, and I said, if you don't want to go ahead and respond to me directly, that's okay. If that's, I was asking her a question about the emotional eating, and she was fine. She came on and talked with me. But, if you don't, it's okay. It's all okay. I always, love to tell members, and I know it seems a little weird since I'm standing here and I do meetings and everything like that, is that I am basically a very shy person. And I'm a person who, if I was meeting friends to go out to eat, I'd ask them to meet me outside the restaurant or whatever, because I did not want to walk in alone. When I was in meetings, I was usually when I first started out, was very quiet. And all of a sudden it dawned on me that everybody in the room had something in common with me. We were all on this journey together. And as soon as I realized that, I was able to come out of my shell. And the more I realized that, I was able to then start coaching, because we're here all together. Yes.
And the other really great thing about when you do get more comfortable and become more active in the group is that you also start building friendships and make those connections outside of just the coaches. We have members that are talking to each other offline, that are supporting each other. If somebody has a bad day, we have a Facebook group that they can post in and others will encourage them. or some people share the meals that they're eating, so we can all kind of get an idea and get inspiration, or new food finds. Somebody finds like a delicious new salmon at Costco, and they'll share the packaging so that others can go and try it out as well. So we're really building this community, and it's not just, us talking to you as members, but also members supporting each other. And with that, and talking about the Facebook group, Emily on Instagram asked the $100 million question: how do you find the meetings? Which is something we haven't talked about yet. So our meetings are kind of hosted through a paid Facebook group. And the way you sign up for the meetings is you go to the Healthi Facebook page, and then there is a button that says, I think, subscribe, if I remember correctly. And you click on that, and then it is going to kind of push you into our Healthi member meetings and support group. And in that group, as I mentioned, we're posting helpful information, we're having conversations, and that's also where we are posting not only the schedule for our meetings, but also events that you can then join those meetings through, and the Zoom link to join the meetings. And while we're talking about that, I also want to point out that we have meetings pretty much twice a day, every single day, except for Sunday. We only have one meeting on Sunday. Most of our meetings are around the noon Eastern time and 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm on Eastern Standard Time, so that's what I kind of like think of when I set up the meetings. So throughout the week, whether an earlier time works better for you or an evening time works better for you, we have found this schedule to work really well for the majority of people. And then on Saturdays, we have kind of a little bit earlier, more of like a morning meeting and the 7 p.m. Eastern meeting. And then on Sunday, we have like an evening meeting that's a little bit earlier. It's at 5 Eastern currently. Our schedule is pretty set and is pretty much the same every single week, but we're always open to feedback and adding more meetings or switching meetings to different times as they are needed.
And that gives you a lot of choices. And I love being able to pop into a meeting in the middle of the day if I'm not crazy at the office, because honestly, it's a great relaxing kind of thing. And to hear what's going on, to see what's going on. And so, and I love the fact that most of the time it is at lunchtime. So that works really nicely. And of course, in the evenings, I got to tell you, like I said, I've come to know most of the coaches through their meetings, and some of them I do know personally, but I happen to, think that you will, more meetings you attend, you'll find a different style coaches, and I think you'll love them. I think you'll love them because each of us are doing this, and I don't mean to speak for everybody, but it comes out pretty clear. They're doing this because they love this. And I want to share this with with you all, with the members. And I think that comes out when you visit any meeting, is that they do this because it's what they do.
Yes. And yes, there is the question, is there a fee for this? And yes, it is a paid Facebook group, and there is a monthly fee associated with the meetings. It has nothing to do with the Pro app version. Sometimes people get confused with that. So the Pro feature on the app will unlock additional features within the app. The meetings are separate from that. They're, I think, $4.99 a month, right?
Yeah, yes.
And that gives you access to as many member meetings as you want during that month that you've signed up for. We've had members before that joined every single meeting that we were offering. We have members who just join one meeting. We have members who maybe, don't get to join a meeting at all during the week. And for those members, we have actually recently started doing a live meeting that I host on Thursdays, so that there is something in the group. If you are getting really busy at work or in your private life and you don't get to join a meeting, then you have the option to watch my live meeting. To still give you a little bit of encouragement and still get a little bit out of the group, because our Zoom meetings that we are doing are not recorded. You can't go back and watch any of the past meetings, because we do want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable. And I personally don't think that I would be as comfortable sharing some of my struggles if I knew that it was recorded. So we want to honor that for our members as well. And that's why we don't record any of the meetings. But we have added that Thursday live meeting for those who might not be able to join. And Joy just put hers is $5.15 in total. So in some states there is tax on that, and some there's not. I live in Georgia. I know last year there wasn't tax on it, and then this year suddenly there is tax on it. Kind of weird. But yeah, depending on where you live, it might be a little bit more with the tax.
Yep. The other thing is, I think what I love you just said is about us personally, because everybody who is coaching has been on this journey at some point, and has different experiences. And I have no problem sharing with you my foibles, okay, before the journey, on the journey, during the journey, after the journey, or not even after, because I'm still on it. And each one of my attempts at the journey. So I think, and I think all the other coaches are the same way. So you know that we're not perfect, but we're living it. We're living it.
We're in the same struggle you are, and chances are whatever situation you're in or struggling with, we have probably been in exactly the same situation before, so we know what it feels like. We're not sitting here as somebody who's always been skinny telling you the theory of it. We have lived through it. Some of us are still living through it in one way or another, and we are big believers in this being kind of like a journey that you're on for the rest of your life. And we talk a lot about changing your mindset and making this like a decision for the rest of your life, and not just, a sprint to the finish line, but something that you're likely going to kind of be working through for the rest of your life. And we want to give you the tools to make this as easy as possible the longer you're on this road.
And I think the other part of it is, again, making this about living versus dieting. And I think that's the important part, is to get, I think we've been talking about this in so many different ways recently in meetings, and getting rid of the diet think and getting into the living of it all, and how to do that in the healthiest way possible, to honor, your health, yourself, and your goals.
Yep.
Anyway.
Absolutely. And Joy just put into the chat the donuts today. One of the meetings a few weeks ago, we were kind of talking about reverse psychology and how to almost manipulate yourself out of like difficult situations. And we were talking about snacks in the break room at work, and how can you kind of talk yourself out of the temptation. And one of the things that I brought up was that, I often tell myself that the food isn't any good. Like in Joyous example, the donuts, just tell yourself they're dried out anyways, they're not going to be any good. Because sometimes we hype up food so much in our mind that it's really hard to avoid the temptation. And then when we're having it, we're really disappointed because it didn't live up to that expectation. So instead of hyping it up in our mind, let's remind ourselves that these donuts have been in your break room for hours, just sitting there, and probably aren't as like fresh and delicious as you think they are. They're probably dried out, and they're not going to be as good. So you can just walk right past them and not need to have one, unless it's something that you want to fit into your day, and then go have a donut, and that's fine too.
I used to talk about that. Basically, there used to be a girl who's outside my office, and she always had a candy jar on her, on her desk. And at first, basically, I really did my best to try to ignore it. And then all of a sudden, one day, I was in the ladies' room, and I watched a couple of people leave the ladies' room. And they had seemed to have forgotten to do something. So then I realized, it's like, oh my God, how many of them have had their hands in the candy jar? And after that, never wanted the candy jar again.
Yep. It's really powerful if you think of it in like this, like like you said earlier, reframing type of way, and it makes it a lot harder to kind of avoid those temptations or double think about whether or not that's something that you want to fit into your plan. And while we're talking about that, I of course also want to say that we're not the type of people who will tell you, oh, you can't ever have any candy or any donuts. We're very much making the distinction between if that's something that you want to do and you want to fit into your day, then go ahead. But if it's something that you don't want to fit into your day, let's talk about strategies to avoid them. And these are all kind of strategies on how to avoid it if you're not wanting to kind of fit it into your plan.
Right. Practice the best tool of all, being mindful. You
Yeah.
know, if you make your choices mindfully, I always say the best question you can ask yourself when it comes to something that you're sitting on the fence with, should I have it or shouldn't I have it? Is this taking care of me? And if this is taking care of me, then I'm going to go ahead and do it. Okay. Donut, chocolate cake, whatever it is. If I can say this is going to take care of, whether I have a sweet tooth or whatever else, and I can do so mindfully and, basically, then I'm doing the right thing. If
Yeah.
it's not taking care of me, then maybe I'm not doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there aren't really any better words to end this life with. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. I hope we've given you a little bit of an idea of what our meetings are about and kind of the topics that we address during the meetings. Like I said, if you do want to join, go to Facebook, go to the Healthi Facebook page and subscribe. It's a monthly charge. If you do want to give it a try for a month, you can cancel at any time. If you just want to say, hey, I want to give it a try for a month, or I'm having a really hard month right now, you can just do a month and check it out. And if it's not for you, you can cancel again, and no harm, no foul. And if you figure out that you love it as much as some of the members have talked about in the comments, then welcome to the member meeting family. And with that, I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day and rest of your week. And hopefully we will see you in meetings soon.
Take care, everybody.